Haley, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. Blue Tees is a brand that has grown exponentially, it feels like, in the last 2 to 3 years. And we were talking a little bit beforehand about some of that growth, but can you kind of explain to people that maybe aren't familiar with the brand or just aren't familiar with the golf business how difficult it is to get this level of growth in such a short period of time?
Yeah, thank you for having me. We're, as you said, a new company, and it's exciting to do interviews like this and talk about the business a little bit and talk about the growth. Um, there's a few things that I think factor into where we're at. Obviously, I've been in the golf industry for 20 years. Was there for the Tiger boom and saw the growth in that space and or in the golf space during that period of time. And it's incredible what we've seen throughout, what you could call COVID golf, and the growth of the game, the how diverse the game has become in that short period of time. And obviously, there's a lot of room for more diversity. And so, as a company, Blue Tees we can't take all the credit for all of that. The product can't take all the credit for all of that. You have to time things and sometimes get lucky with timing as well, and then have all the pieces in place to expand upon that. And I think that's where Blue Tees is seeing a lot of its success. So came in at a time when golf is becoming hotter than it's ever been. It's becoming cool. It's becoming something on social media that everybody's talking about, that people love to talk about, and golf courses are packed. And so we entered a space that we felt could use a little improvement in the sense of product design, really, not necessarily functionality. There's a lot of great rangefinders out there. But we felt that not every one of them was, really cool looking, really didn't fit into kind of our fashion point of view in the sense of a younger demographic. And so we kind of expanded upon that. And so I think in the sense of seeing this, incremental growth that we've already seen, part of that, there's just so many factors that factor into it. The team has to be there, the timing has to be there. And then with all the challenges of getting product in and everything else right now, there's a lot of luck in that side of it as well, and figuring out how to fulfill orders right now. And so we've seen all of those things factor in, but so far, so good for Blue Tees.
You talked about design aesthetic and trying to create something that might appeal to a younger golfer, younger generation, and that a lot of folks in your team are under 40. And hooray for all of us under 40 people, getting a foot in the door in the world. But was it a little bit of a leap of faith to say, okay, we can come up with a way to make a rangefinder functionally work great, but also look substantially different enough that a younger person see him and go, I'm buying that one?
Well, and that's where the team comes into play. So I came on board with this group a little bit later in kind of the genesis of Blue Tees. Blue Tees was primarily a direct consumer product. And it was developed by some friends that were college friends and acquaintances, and the team was built from there. And so a group of our owners were out playing golf. They, none of them are scratch players. None of them are professional players. They're your daily guy that goes out to your daily fee course and goes out to crack a couple beers and have a good time. But they bought rangefinders off of Amazon. They're younger, obviously, so technology is a big thing. Everybody's got Apple Watches and whatever else. And so they're like, we want to get rangefinders. We want to know our distance. And so they purchased, not to mention any names, but a few units, lesser price point units, like more in the $199 and below, and brought them out to the course. Three of them, they all three bought different units, but to try them out. And so one of them, the eyepiece fell off. The other, they couldn't figure out a distance for the life of them. And then there was some other issue with the other one as well. So they're like, man, we can do this. The technology's been around for a long time, and but we think we can do this in our own way. And so fortunately, that group, our CEO, owned another company, is very familiar with bringing product in from overseas and product procurement. His best friend is an industrial designer that's part of our ownership team. So He, built the product from the ground up in the sense of our new S3 Max rangefinder that we have. And then he's also a graphic designer, self-taught, and, does some cool things. And so I've worked with a lot of graphic designers, and ours blows me away every time I receive something from them. And then on the other side of it, you have, social media and marketing and influencers and how to get in front of a younger demographic. And fortunately, another member of our team that handles that side in our business relationships had a background in that and is extremely personable in building that type of a group. And he did a fantastic job doing that. So it was kind of not just a perfect storm of golf being really hot, but a great group of people that came into it and, started to build a beautiful rangefinder that had a big buzz around.
And you have come on and built out the kind of B2B side of things, building up green grass accounts, getting them in pro shops or my pro shop at my club. Suddenly you have a presence not only in a digital world where product's hot, but also you've got it in a green grass world where maybe people who aren't as familiar with the D2C version of Blue Tees can go, hey, that's a brand I'm interested in at a price point I'm also interested in. In the long haul, where do you want to take Blue Tees as a brand recognition? You want it to be kind of straddling the line between a D2C and a B2B, or does it kind of merge at some point in the future?
Well, I think they both work well together if you coordinate them correctly. And so the feedback that we get from our largest customers, your Dick's Sporting Goods, your PGA Tour superstores, they love the green grass business. They love us being in pro shops because it adds notoriety and gains notoriety for the product. So when you walk in, you may not buy it from your pro shop, but you see it. And then, when you go into Dick's and you're in there for holiday and Christmas shopping, and you're like, oh yeah, my pro shop, that was the premier rangefinder they had on their counter. And so, that side of it, we feel they work well together. And then I really see, and most people, it's hard to walk the line, but the consumer direct side, obviously there's great margins in consumer direct. You're cutting out the middleman, you're making all the money, but it does cost money to procure customers. Obviously, there's a customer acquisition cost with everything that you do. But in the sense of what I see D2C for me personally on the B2B side in the business that I run for Blue Tees, that marketing that's done there is insanely important to the success of the B2B side. So I see all that as marketing. That's all I see it as. It's a marketing profit center, but it's also, for me, it's all marketing. Print media and things. Obviously, there's some great avenues for print media, and there's still a place for it. But we can see everything when it comes to the D2C side. We can see all the data. We can see when we run campaigns, what's happening, what the trends are, what people are buying, and then the comments that we get from our consumers and reviews and everything else. That's how we modify our products. That's how we design new products, is based on what they're looking for, the issues that they've had with our products, or what they think could be better. And so that's how we're building the brand.
What's kind of the life cycle like for a customer who comes into Blue Tees and then maybe keeps iterating through different generations of the product as you guys continue to iterate different generations of the product? Are they becoming more sophisticated as buyers? Do they hold the product for a while? Where are they at maybe right now?
So in the original state of Blue Tees, we came out with two rangefinders. We came out with a non-slope version and a slope version, no slope switch. And it's turned out to be really a great game plan for us because people bought those versions. They were a good price point, not $500-$600 like some of our competitors. And so, that was their initial, a lot of them, that's the first time they've owned a rangefinder. So that was their initial impression. And then some of them may be becoming more serious golfers, and they feel like they need a slope switch so they can play in tournaments, or they can play in their men's club or whatever else, or their ladies group and play in an afternoon tournament, that type of thing. And so we saw a lot of people go from their S2, and when we launched the S3, they upgraded into that. So now we know they own an S3, which has every bell and whistle that you could want with a point and shoot. It's got slope switch. It's got, the magnification that every $500. It competes head to head with every high-end rangefinder out there, and it's about half the price in most cases. And so we know that they really don't need another rangefinder, other than we hope they tell their friends and their friends buy one. But outside of that, we know that we cannot just sit on that unit and expect it to continue to grow at the level that it's grown. One thing that we are doing is we're in true Blue Tees fashion is we're coming out with some color variations. And so we think we can hit some other demographics. We have a pink rangefinder coming out that'll launch this month. It'll be at Dick's, Superstores, all the big retailers, and then heavy at the green grass level as well. But we haven't really seen anybody in the rangefinder space ever go and specifically target women's golf, and specifically target that more serious women golfer that, you know, is out there. And so we really feel like there's a market for that. Women, women's golf is one of the quickest growing spaces in golf right now. And so we think that that's going to be a really cool product that we have coming right now for the holidays. So once we sell everybody that we can an S3 Max in whatever color that they decide to buy, what's next for Blue Tees, we know we have to keep creating and innovating products. It may be another rangefinder, but not going to be for a little while. There's no S4 coming tomorrow. So, and a lot of our retailers appreciate that. They like the kind of the color variations and going from there and doing it a little bit more cosmetic. And then from there, you know, we're a fun, little bit younger, more of a younger lifestyle brand. There'll be some really fun younger lifestyle products coming, you know, spring of next year. So, and I'll be able to, you know, we do this again, we'll be able to highlight some of that stuff coming up here, but that's the plan. So we know we can't just be a rangefinder company if we want to be a brand. That's a product. We're going to continue to grow the brand.
Is there an interest from your audience, or do you sense one from the broader audience of more personalization of their golf experience in terms of their equipment, whether that's their rangefinder, their bag, their tees? I get the sense that maybe even more than ever, people have access and interest in things that just have personal touches to them that are a way of expressing themselves.
Yeah, and you know, we've talked a lot about that. We do that in some aspects, in the sense of like at the country club level and at the tournament level, we're able to customize our rangefinders. We do a ton of logoing. I just got a call this morning for a 140, piece event coming up here for a marketing firm. They run a tournament every single year. They do a ton of stuff with NASCAR and everything else, and they, want to put the logo on the battery cap of their S3 Max. We have we kind of a little sneak peek. We have we're getting into the licensing space. That'll start next spring. So not to name any schools or anything yet, but we will have 6 of the top 10 colleges that'll be fully customized rangefinders. So we'll be in that space as well. We have an entire team built out to sell those at the Greengrass B2B level. You'll be able to find those on fanatics.com and all across the board. So fully customized, really cool, just different than anybody's done, full packaging, everything else that we think that collegiate alumni will love. And if you're a Ohio State fanatic and you're a golfer at the same time, you don't just want your rangefinder case to say Ohio State, you want your entire rangefinder to be Ohio State. So we do have some categories that we're looking at in that space as well. And then if we can, start customizing in any smaller way as well, and, targeting those areas, I think we have some products coming out that we will do that in. But, rangefinder is a little bit more challenging, but the logo side has been really good for us.
Has there been, in varying degrees, I've heard this throughout the industry, depending on whether you make balls or grips or whatever, but what are the supply chain issues you've seen in the last year? Do they exist in the laser world, or are there anything that you might anticipate for Q4 that you guys are trying to kind of work through right now?
Yeah, and so we, I can proudly say that we have not back ordered a rangefinder all year long. And so part of that is, the planning process, making sure that we give everybody enough time on pre-sale and everything else. But logistically and fortunately, our supplier's been amazing. The defect rate on our product's been really, really good. So we haven't had to backpedal on that at all. We're well below the industry 1% on an actual mechanical defect rate. So that's been really good. But supply chain wise, fortunately, as I said, I keep reverting back to our team. We have some superstars. We call them our ninjas in house. They know what they're doing. They know how to they find ways to get product out the door. Where I know people are struggling. Shanghai airport shut down. How do you get product here? How do you reserve your spot? And I in no way am an expert in that category, but we have people that are very talented that are getting product here in a timely fashion, and we are not having to push POs back. And fortunately, we're able to bring in enough product to fulfill the demand that's out there. And we're trying to load right now too. We're like, we don't care if we're carrying a bunch of inventory into next year. We just want to make sure our customers are happy and they're getting what they want. So from the B2B side to our consumer side, everything, we want to make sure people are getting things in a timely fashion and are able to take advantage of good golf weather when they can, and then be ready for spring as well. So no, we're doing pretty good on that side.
And I'll wrap on this. We talked about this earlier and throughout this conversation that golf has experienced an incredible boom throughout the pandemic. Where do you see it right now in terms of a boom? Is it kind of where it at its high, or maybe its pinnacle where it maybe has been for the last 6, 7, 8, 9 months? And where do you see it maybe a year or two for now, when perhaps people wind up back in a little bit more of a hybrid situation where they're either in the office more or just don't have quite as much time to come and play 9 and hop on a Zoom in between?
Yeah. And so obviously there's going to be a ton of factors. I'm not a statistical expert by any means. There's a lot of things that factor into this, but I will say that 5 years from now, we're going to be in a much healthier space than we were 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So I know golf really well. I've been around it my entire life. I know the emotions that golf can cause and what it makes you feel when you're out there. And it's extremely challenging, but it's insanely addicting. And then when you put that all together and you're out there with your buddies or you're out there with your girlfriends or whatever it is, and you're having a fantastic time, you're not going to stop doing that. I think it introduced the game to so many more people, and people realize how much fun it is. My kids, who probably wouldn't have really got into golf, even though I'm into it, they play every other sport. That was the only thing they were able to do during that time period, really, because all their sports have been canceled. Youth sports were done, so we could go out on the golf course. And, now they're golfers for life. They don't do it all the time, but they do it way more than they ever did. And they love it when they do it. So I think we're going to be in a positive uptick for a while. I think people are going to keep introducing new people to the game. Are we going to have this massive boom forever? That can't happen. It won't sustain in a sense, but I'll take what we got out of it so far. And I think it's just going to be a really fun next 5 years with golf. And hopefully, it keeps rolling this way.
Well, Taylor, thanks so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. Congrats on all the success. And hopefully, as you alluded to, we'll be able to talk about some more exciting things for Blue Tees the next time we do this.
Awesome, Ryan. Thank you so much for having me again. This was fun.